Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our discussion tonight. This discussion is part of a series of the discussions we've had every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And we are talking about everything to do with the upcoming elections, the 2023 election. Today, we are talking about the debates, the presidential debates for that matter. And on the panel, we have amazing people who will share with us what went right, what went wrong, what was the impact of the debates, what can be improved. And that is our focus tonight as we gear towards the fifth, or the elections of the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya. We are all excited for it, and we are all looking forward to it. I will be your moderator, Omukoko Okoth, and our host is Okoth Pondo. We will dive in straight, and I would like to ask the panelists to, first of all, introduce themselves before they can share their remarks and their general thoughts on the debate. So the first question is, what are your general thoughts on the debate that we just had? That includes the presidential debate, the deputy president's debate, and even if you like, the gubernatorial debates for the Nairobi governors. And so we will dive straight in, and we will start with Josephine. Josephine, the floor is yours.
Maybe even before we bring in Josephine Omukoko, just also to let people know that we are live on our different platforms. Campd Voices, that is the name, Campd, CAMPDE as one word, then Voices. We are live on our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube platforms or the channels. You can follow the conversation from there because we cannot accommodate everyone in the virtual hall here. Thank you so much for joining us for the past Thursdays, and even now as we head to the election. Remember, we've kept on urging each and every person. Our role is just to put the leaders on check, to follow whatever they're talking about, but not to fight. We're not going to fight because of elections. There are things we cannot do for our leaders. And tonight, as Omukoko has introduced this very, very well to us, first of all, we have to be very happy. We are among the few countries, I can say, in the world, and more so in Africa, that are always brave enough to carry out these kind of processes, allowing the presidential debate candidates to come together to have these conversations with Wananchi, or the Wanjiku, or whichever name that you want to call it, to be asked questions so that we get an opportunity to understand their manifestos in depth. So tonight, welcome for these great debates, and I throw it back over to you, Omukoko.
Yes, so as I said, I will start with Josephine, and I just want to remind the panelists to be as brief as they can be, because we have a number of them, and we want everyone to have an equal chance to share what they think or believe happens. So Josephine, we'll start with you.
Thank you for Omukoko. I'll try and be brief. It seems you knew I'll talk. I'm Josephine Flora, as you've heard, and I'll just say my general thoughts on the debates generally. I feel they're really not serving their purpose as it ought to, since after interaction with several people, most of them have not really changed their view on whom or they'll vote for, no matter what it's said on that debate. It's like they are just there to criticize that person that they don't support. So it's not really serving its purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for being so brief. I will now invite Timothy to share his general thoughts on the debates that we had. Mr. Timothy, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me well. And concerning the debates, I think my biggest concern is the intent of the speakers during the debate, because I try to be very conservative, because there is this saying that people will tell you what you want to hear when you want to hear them. And I just have this fear that most of these people are telling us what we want to hear at this time. So apart from that concern, I think they said pretty good things. Some good things came out of it. Maybe not all of it, but time will tell.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Timothy, for pointing out that indeed politicians have told us what we wanted to hear, and we will get into that. So, Mr. Paul Muhisa, can you tell us what your general thoughts are on the debates that we just had?
Thank you. Mine is simple. I think there was either some people lacked one, some people lacked both, but in general, I would say there was a lack of accountability, one, and also a lack of delving into the serious issues. There was an issue of blanket answers and being vague. So a lot of that needs to be talked about, and generally how we can progress from the slump we've been as a country for a while. Because the rest of the world is talking about climate change, foreign relations, international trade, military advancements. We're still talking about fertilizer subsidy as an invention. I know we are growing, but there's a saying that says there is nothing good about being the tallest among dwarfs. So, yeah, we can do better. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for the optimism that you have and for acknowledging that we are growing and that we still have a long journey ahead of us. Yvonne, I think I'll now get it to you. What are your general thoughts on the debates, the gubernatorial debates, the deputy presidential debates, and the presidential debates? Yvonne, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I would like to start by saying that please bear with me. We are currently experiencing a blackout, and my internet is not as stable as well. So back to what you asked, my thoughts on the debates. They really did not meet my expectation. The focus was on trivial issues instead of the really pressing issues that we as Kenyans to be talking about.
Oh, sorry, I think we lost Yvonne.
And I feel like we can do much better. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so in conclusion, I am in total agreement with Paul that we can do much better, and we need to be talking about more serious things as a country.
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne, for sharing your thoughts on that and for saying that we need to be talking about more serious things as a country. And I think Paul shares that view as well. I think now we will move to what do you believe are the most important issues that were either addressed or should have been addressed in the debate? What are some of the most important issues that should have been addressed or were addressed in the debates? And I think we will follow the same cycle, and we'll start with you, Josephine.
And I think, Omukoko, even as we start with Josephine, the first question maybe that we should really be struggling to address here, which were the issues that came out? Even before we come to the issue that they think should have been addressed, maybe which were the issues that came out? Did you see any issues? Were there any kind of juice in this debate? Josephine?
Issues like the real issues on the ground or the things that came out.
Yes.
Because if you ask me issues, that's very broad. I have a number of them that came out. If I look at just the debate on Justina Wamai, the deputy presidential debate, Justina Wamai and Ruth, one thing that came out clearly was they both agreed on the fact that corruption is a trivial issue to us as a nation and it needs to be addressed. Though I didn't really feel like they had concrete ways or means of dealing with this corruption. And it also came in Martha Karua and Gachagwa's debate, the issue on corruption, but still also with them, I didn't get a grasp of how they plan to deal with it. Listening to Mwaure, on the presidential candidate for Agano Party, he also spoke about integrity, leadership and all that. Like I feel like he partially had solution to corruption because he spoke so much about corruption, saying how much money that is being put outside the country. The name is not settling in my head. Will be brought back. And also, and is it me?
No, sorry. I think we'll check the microphone. I've muted it. Yeah, go on.
Okay, yeah. And then with DP Ruto's debate, that didn't come out in a positive way. It came up in a negative way, and it was not directly addressed. I feel like he was running away from corruption as a matter, and it was something that came out in all the debates, but was not addressed the way it needs to be addressed. So that's the major issue. I'd point out that really came out clearly for me. And it's, as a country, I'd say we are not really ready and do not have the right means, as per what I've heard from the candidates, to deal with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Josephine, for pointing out that one of the most important issues that were raised was corruption. And I wonder what Paul will say was one of the most significant issues that were raised, and whether you believe that they were addressed as they should have. Mr. Paul.
Yes, thank you for your question. One of the most important issues that I think was raised, and if they are properly touched, in fact, that will flow properly with what I was about to say. So when you look at these debates, a lot of them lacked the element of efficacy. Like, I could not take your plan and use the principles that are actually there on the ground and say that they'll be successful. So like Wahiga, for example, okay, Wahiga to me came out as a very redemptive candidate. He emphasized on value-based solutions and the sacred nature of institutions, from a religious standpoint, of course, being his background. So this is like a utopian kind of thing. Okay, to some people it might seem pleasant and all that, but when you look at efficacy, I don't think that will flow far. And that my notion was reinforced with some of the answers he gave, because he talked about a few things. He talked about mental wealth, he talked about food security, he talked about police brutality, and all of these things he gave very, can I say, blanket answers in a way. And then when asked about stolen money and how he would retrieve it, again, blanket answers in general. But I will say props to him, because first of all, effort for showing up. Ojokoya clearly was not into it. And then the second thing is that he had a lot to do, especially to make up, because the running mate didn't do too well in the first debate. So in terms of that, I congratulate him. Still being relatively new to this sphere, it was okay. So my issue with him was efficacy, but overall it was fine. Now with Ruto, sticking to the presidential debate, with Ruto, it was generally accountability. I found it very problematic, if we are being factual. And just before I get to Ruto very quickly now, Raila, with Raila missing the debate, Raila, or rather Azimio, let out a statement saying that they would withdraw because Kenya Kwanza requested the debate committee to go easy on issues touching on corruption and graft and all that. And Azimio believes this is at the heart of their campaign. So by participating in this, they will be veering from their initial manifesto. But if that will affect the votes or tip the scale, we'll see. But for me personally, what I will say is, I want you as a candidate to attend a debate, because that is where I can ask you, or we can engage with you on the felt issues, the issues that I care about, rather than in rallies where I don't have the option of replying to you or whatever. So I hope that makes sense. But for Ruto generally, as I wind up on this, he circled around the handshake a lot, and he pointed a lot of the ineffectiveness of the government to the handshake. So first of all, there is no fundamental change in the content of government ever since the handshake came about, or the wake of the handshake. Even the security apparatus have remained the same. And second, a lot of challenges we are facing are embedded in the first term. You look at even the maize policies, even the Galana project that they talk about for food security, it was all embedded there. So you cannot take praise for the good, the infrastructure, and say you're declining on the failures, you won't touch on that. So yeah, I generally had a big issue with him on accountability. I think I'll expound on that later. But yeah, generally it was good. As a debate sphere, we have a long way to go, but I commend the journalists, especially on the presidential debates, the latter one, Yvonne and Latif, they were quite explicit with their actions, and that's what we need to put them, to test their accountability. That's all I'll say for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, just allow me to add some kachumbari into this conversation.
Absolutely.
In less than a minute. Flora Nyanchoka, Timo Shekhar, and of course, definitely Paul has shared his opinion. What do you think? What is your take on Raila missing on this debate? Do you think it would have been important for him to be part of this debate, or what's your take on this generally, Nyanchoka, Yvonne?
So for me, the action by Raila and Wajakoya to miss the debate shows a lack of respect for Kenyans at large, because you are asking for a job from us, and then once invited to highlight the key things you want to do for us, you do not show. So that to me showcases a lack of respect for us as a nation. And I feel like they should have been there, because not everyone has the time to engage with them in the rallies. And as Paul clearly outlined, people don't get a chance to interrogate these candidates in the rallies. You're just told, we will do this and this and this, and there is no way of really getting to know their manifestos and their plans for Kenyans. So showing up would have really been of importance.
Okay. Timo, what do you think about Raila and Wajakoya missing and their reasons?
Okay, so I'd like to agree with the previous speaker to some extent. I know we're supposed to be a democratic nation, and him showing up or not is his democratic right. Like, the debates aren't constitutional, or they're not mandated, but I think it would have been a good opportunity for him maybe to even garner more votes of the undecided bloc. But I mean, they made the strategy. I don't know what strategy they're going with here, but I think it would have been better rather than, no. I just feel like the reason or the excuse that they gave didn't really sell to anyone, either to their supporters or the opponents. So,
Shekhar?
Yes, hi everyone.
Hello, how are you?
So for me, I think it's a lack of seriousness as a candidate when you want to get this top job and you're called upon as in a last chance to tell Kenyans what you want to do with the situation as it is, and you decline and give excuses. I think it's lack of seriousness for me, and it's just basically lack of moral also. As my previous, the person who talked previously said, he's not mandated, but when you're seeking such a top-notch job and you're called upon by Kenyans, which overall everyone wanted him to attend, we wanted to know what he's going to say to us, and you do not. And as the first person said, it's lack of moral and respect for what you want as a position in this country. So basically, that's for me.
Okay, so Flora.
I'll start with Wajakoya. Him, first of all, being in the premises and not attending the debate. For lack of a better word, I'll say it's bad manners. You don't do that. I'd prefer Dangeka Nyumbani. Why would you show up and then say you won't show up for the debate? That's just bad manners. For Raila, I'd say he's running away from my view, he's running away from accountability. Because this is the time, if he's saying Ruto lacks integrity or he's a thief or what, this was the time for him to show us what has he stolen and to discredit him. Let us hear from him rather than him saying he can't share a podium with him. I feel that was running away from his responsibility and not being accountable for his words. Yeah.
Thank you. My friend Ali from South Africa, who also ran this kind of programs. Thank you so much for joining us, and it seems like you've been following Kenyan affairs so closely. You see you adorning EFF jacket. Karibu sana. What do you think about this? One candidate not showing up, actually the candidate who did not show up for the debate. Do you think this might have affected something, or are they just justified the reasons they gave? Ali, if you can hear me.
All right. Yes, I can hear you, my brother. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for that. On a very quick note, for me, I generally think that it's quite. Firstly, it's rude to do that. You can't be invited into a debate and finding that the house on its lunch, it's having the appetite. You have to appetize them, and you just end up by being there and remain quiet and not give the public what they deserve. While I've been reading the Kenya news, following them, but the politics that side are quite difficult for me to follow because I'm looking at the South African politics this side. So I keep on reading about them, but I can hear that looks like the main issue there is corruption. There is corruption that is happening on that side. I believe that the leader that did not actually participate into this debate, that leader knows something that does not want to share to the public. The reason being is that how can a leader be in a public space and refuse to speak? The public needs to ask themselves, there's something wrong with that person. That person has an information. But I also believe that, in terms of corruption in Kenya, we all know that the Kenya government has a history in which spanned that the era of the founding president called the Jomo Kenyatta. We know the history, what is happening there. The likes of Daniel Arap, we know the history, what is happening there in terms of the corruption and everything. We know that. So corruption is happening in Kenya, although people are suffering. Nothing much I can say, my brother. I just want to observe because I've been following these things and I've been reading them much. And it's quite worrying when somebody will spend 90 minutes on the debate, other one will just, remain quiet. But I like the fact that Ruto was speaking about corruption, that he promises to fight corruption and reduce the cost of living in Kenya. But in terms of corruption, I saw doubt.
Okay. Even before I take it back to Mukoko, thank you so much, Ali, for sharing that and just putting our dirty linen in public. I didn't know that would come from you, especially from South Africa. But we also know you. We also know you very well. So I see Oduho joining us here. Oduho?
Yes, my brother, how are you?
What is your take on Raila and Wajakoya not showing up for the debate?
It was very disappointing. I, for one, was looking forward to listening to Wajakoya and what he had to say and defend his opinion. But ultimately, of course, it was very disappointing that given that leading to the presidential election, there was a 100% attendance, and that it would they had to drop the ball at the end. But it was not a surprise because, as you can recall, in 2017, Raila debated himself, and of course, Ruto was in the opposing camp, and of course was among those who decided not from the party that decided not to show up. So ultimately, it was disappointing, but not surprising.
Okay, so thank you for that. And now, as I take it over to Mukoko, I see Mukoko messages are coming in very quick. Mercy Korir is actually wondering where is Brian Onchoka. I think Brian Onchoka communicated, stating that Mukoko, he sent a message, right?
Yeah, he sent a message. Unfortunately, he could not show up because of an event that happened during the debate as well.
Okay.
He lost power for some reason or other.
Okay.
And I do not know what happened. But I think we're getting to the presidential debate very soon. But before we go there, we know one of the candidates say that they will not show up unless they're allowed to be on the stage with the so-called two horses. And so Wajakoya believes he's a third horse and was not allowed to be part of the among the major debaters or the major presidential candidates, if you may like. So what do you make of the two-tier system, where we have a situation where we have candidates who had less than 5% in opinion polls debating amongst themselves, and those who had more than that debating amongst each other? Do you think that is a good system, or what is good or wrong about it? And I think we will start with Yvonne.
On the two-tier system, I agree with Wajakoya that all the aspirants should share a podium and answer questions all together. I do not see the need of the division because at the end of the day they're asking for a similar position. So I really don't see the need for the division.
Okay, I see. And I think I will get one more response for that. And Sheka, do you believe that it's actually a good idea to have it that way?
Definitely not. It's not, because I think all these people are eyeing the same position, and collectively they all have solutions for the issues that we are having as a country. So they all should have been in one podium, being asked the same question, being able to refute each other, so that all of us can be able to see who has a better idea for all of us. Otherwise, the tearing is just bad. It doesn't work for us, I think.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. I wonder whether there is anyone who has a contradictory opinion or a contrary opinion on that matter. Is there anyone who believes that actually it was done right and that we should have presidents or presidential candidates with low results in opinion polls debating amongst each other and the others debating against each other? Is there anyone who holds that view? That what was done was right?
Let me be the first devil's advocate here. I'm trying to imagine, maybe in the eyes of Raila and Ruto, they're looking at and just wondering, really, why should we debate Wajakoya and Maura? Why are they even worth our time? And even to the organizers, sometimes they're wondering, okay, when we have these 4 presidential candidates, some of them, we've had a history in Kenya where some just register their names and then disappear. I think this is the first time in Kenya's election where we're having the smallest number of presidential candidates. If the IBC could not have taken the exercise we were going to take, we had over 50 presidential candidates. So you are right now trying to imagine how many debates we have had. And if you look in the past elections in 2017 and 2013, there were presidential candidates that we never saw them. Even if you meet them in the streets of Kenya today, you won't even know that they were presidential candidates because people just register their names, then disappear. So I don't really know if this was the reason as why these people chose to have these other people, but then they also gave their reasons as that those who are having the opinion polls were rating them below 5% were to debate alone. Then those who are above 5% were now to debate on their side. So I don't really know if that made sense, but I'm just thinking loud if that maybe could have been the reason. Yeah.
Maybe I can add something small.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think we can hear from Timothy, then Josephine.
Oh,
yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, yeah. Mine is just a quick one, and okay, maybe there's a benefit to it, because I think one thing that stood out to me is I think we got the most out of, for example, Ruto being on stage alone, and having that time, given ample time that actually brought out some of the loopholes that maybe some people are hiding. And I feel like we might have lost that, that intensity if maybe we had 4 of them debating at the same time. Maybe we would have lost some train of thought between one person and the other. But then again, maybe just how I see it.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. And I think you make it very clear that we have more time when we have fewer candidates, and that allows us to see more and hear more from the candidates and get to follow what they actually think. An opportunity that would be denied if they had less time each. Okay, Josephine, what are your thoughts?
I was just on what Opondo has said, and I'm like, if that was really what they were thinking of, then why is it that Justina went against Ruth and she still stood out among the 4 of them? Doesn't that speak something? It means they were using the wrong analysis, because she might have been among the below 5%, but I tell you, most of the Kenyans still watched the debate, and they feel she did a good job. Don't you think it would have been different if she were with Gachagua and Martha Karua? Probably some issues would have come out clearly, rather than us listening to Gachagua and Martha Karua telling each other about their past history.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Josephine. And I think Mr. Uduho wants to come in and share his thoughts. Mr. Uduho, please.
Allow me to weigh in on that. I believe it comes down to the validity of the opinion polls in question that ultimately determine whether indeed whether the segregation is crucial. because ultimately it's about separating the serious candidates from the unserious candidates. And when I say this, it is ultimately the people's opinion that determines this, because elections, there are those individuals who have waited until elections to preach their ideas and their so-called ideas, but there are those who have been in politics and in the game for a prolonged period of time, and hence they can be determined as those serious candidates that would need to be separated from the unserious candidates. For the unserious candidates, hence, they require, it is incumbent upon them to prove that they that their say is just as valid as those serious candidates who have been in the game for such a long time, thereby making their opinions valid. And as such, having a separate poll, having a separate debate, just as Josephine has mentioned, is more than sufficient to enable them to highlight their ideas as separated from those serious candidates, as would end up as they may end up being overshadowed. And as such, they find a platform where they are able to air their ideas without serious competition.
So, Omukoko.
Yes, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, I think the only one that hasn't spoken on this, I'll just say something very quick. Now, this from the side of the companies. Now, like in this capitalist society, it's majorly about mostly making profit. So we shouldn't think that the medias are entirely going to, play the role of being the interview of these people, or the people to hold them accountable. The media houses are also corporations charged with making a profit at the end of the day. And so what people like is the hype. Anywhere you go in any sphere, it doesn't have to be politics. It's always him versus him, her versus her. It's always A versus B. It transcends politics. It goes to sports with like even good debates and all those things. So with the media houses, you can understand why they do that, because people want to see like Raila versus Ruto. And I agree largely with what has been said just now of it being given top priority or prime time on TV is as a result of the culmination of the years of struggle. You want to preach out your message, you want to get your message out there. So in a way, I want to say that they've they've earned it in a way. So yeah, I think that makes sense. In my opinion, it's profits.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Paul. And I think just before I ask you more about Ruto and Raila and maybe the debate that happened, I just wonder, what do you think, and maybe very briefly, what do you think is the reason why Raila did not show up? And I think we will start with Mr. Oduho before we proceed to other panelists. Why do you think, very briefly, why do you think Raila did not show up?
Well, in my personal opinion, kwa Kiswahili tutasema ni kulipisa kisazi. There is one, the fact that he was left to debate himself at once upon a time, he just merely returning the favor. But at the same time, there is a sense in which by being unable to show up to defend his ideas as much as avid as he is defending them in public, that there is indeed a gap in information, that the reason that they're giving us as to why he did not attend the debate is not the real reason as to why he did not attend the debate.
Okay, thank you. Yvonne, what about you? Why did Raila fail to show up for the debate? Yes, Yvonne. I think we can go to Mr. Tim. Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I personally agree with Oduho that there is an element of kulipiza, and again, it's mere speculation, but yeah.
Okay, Mr. Timothy, why did Raila show up?
Thank you, Mkoko. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we'd never know for sure. We can only speculate, but not to dismiss what Oduho said. Maybe just to add on it, maybe he was slightly ill-advised. I don't know. Just a thought. Maybe he was slightly. Maybe they thought this might create some form of rebellion, and then maybe draw in some. I don't know what the game was, but maybe he was slightly ill-advised, in my opinion.
Okay, it appears the other team has said many things, including that he doesn't have a plan, and others have said he's too old and could not stand for 90 minutes. Josephine, why do you think Raila did not show up?
I'd say it's an act of overconfidence. He's like, whether I show up or not, I'll still win, which is very wrong. That's how I saw it. He was like, why should I stand against Ruto? I can still win whether I debate him or not. Another thing, like I said earlier, he's running away from accountability. You see, the handshake thing came a lot in the debate, and I feel he knew such things will come up, and I'm sure whoever advised him told him not to come, because otherwise we'll not be working with what Ruto is telling us. We'll be having Raila's opinion on this, and I'm starting to feel maybe Ruto was right about the handshake thing.
Okay. Well, maybe Raila was evading tough questions, as Ruto suggested, or Ruto said. We will never know, as Timothy says. But Sheikha, why do you think Raila did not show up?
Okay, according to me, I think that what Josephine has said actually is the act of being overconfident. I think having all the state resources rallied behind you to be this presidential seat, I think he felt like he need not to show. It's not a must, and it's not of importance to him. So basically, for me, that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think, well, I'm not sure whether Ali is very conversant with this.
Yeah, no. On a very quick one. For my side,
Yes.
I don't want to touch it much, but on my side, I think the reason for Raila not to show up, it's that he was trying to avoid certain topics such as corruption. Sometimes when you're corrupt, how can you want to, entertain a debate where they'll be talking about corruption? Because you know for sure that when they talk about corruption, yourself, you are within the pool of corruption. So I think that's one of the main reasons why he didn't show up. That's my view. As the African news, it shows that according to the spokesperson from the Kenya, that's what they indicated, that might be the reason. I mean, the deputy president, William. Oh, sorry. There's something happening on my screen. On my side, on a very quick note, just to keep it short, I'm thinking that they were avoiding the topic of corruption, because we all know that he's corrupt.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, it seems that. Yes. Okay, Mr. Porto, go ahead.
I'm just getting interested in this because now that Raila did not show up and Wajekwa did not show up, it is just good that we talk about what these two other people who showed up talked about, and more so Ruto, because I'm sorry to say, but most Kenyans tend to think that Mr. Mwaura is not really a serious candidate. We even had some journalists saying that it was a very difficult time even moderating him, because he appeared to be totally out of touch with the reality of the issues. Let's talk a bit about William Ruto. Let's just call a spade a spade. What is your take on his interrogation or his interview? Now that is how we can call it. Maybe we can just go around, then we bring it back to Mkoko. Josephine, do you think Ruto managed? How did he perform according to you? Maybe in just a minute. What was his performance?
Out of 10, I'll give him 5. He tried. The mere fact that he showed up, kudos to him. He tried tackling most of the questions. It was not easy. As Paul had said, he was being held accountable for being the deputy president. And it is not easy. He tried. On that, I'd say he tried to respond to some of the issues. Though I wouldn't say I was satisfied. Now that's where the other 5 goes to. I was not satisfied with most of the responses he gave, considering the fact that most of these things he was being asked, most of them happened in his first term as the deputy president. And him blaming it on handshake really didn't sit well with me. I feel like he should have taken accountability. He should have been accountable of the things that didn't happen in their first term, like the Kimwarere and Aror issue. I think that's something he ought to have accepted. It didn't work because of this and this and this, rather than saying it didn't work because of the obvious reason, which is handshake. On that, I feel like he was running away from it, and I didn't like the fact that he was. Sorry to say this, he was pity partying a lot. He made me have a feeling of our deputy president has no power. He's powerless. And I'm like, if that it was that bad, why didn't he just step aside and become the opposition leader and fight for that which he feels is right?
And Flora, how much is enough?
Enough is enough.
Okay, so Timo, on your take, just a quick one on Ruto's debate. Actually, Ruto's interview. Let's call it that way.
Yeah, it was an interview indeed. And okay, I not to dismiss what Josephine has said. I totally agree. Maybe I think it was Paul who said at the beginning of the interview, it's about, accountability and factuality. Like, I feel like Ruto is a good public speaker. Like, he knows the right words to say. Like, he knows how to put things, he knows how to speak to the souls of the listeners. But I think maybe, I don't know, maybe in future, maybe if we can find a way of verifying some of the things that, because I realize if someone just says a lie with enough confidence, people believe it. But we can't really know, like, how can we verify any of the information that was being presented? And I feel like I lose touch with some of the things, because I don't know, no one is perfect. So I expected Ruto, for example, would accept that some things went wrong during his rather than, trying to blame the same government in which you serve. I think it would be more honorable if he accepted most of the things that went wrong rather than throwing blame, and also the fact that we can't really verify the information that was being presented. Yeah.
Timo, have you ever watched some of these loyalty test shows which are done either in South Africa or in Kenya?
The Pluto.
The Pluto and others. Imagine if we could just have the truth meter. If you say something, we tell you put your finger, then 2, that is a lie. 2,
yes, we need something like that, or like some information database that if someone says 3 billion was used in Kimorel Dam, we can pull that up and see, it was actually 10 billion, something like that. So we can have, it's not just your word against Kenyans.
And I think this is something that Omkoko, we've really been talking about with you for a long time, because sometimes it becomes very difficult to verify information when these people are speaking on stage, right? Paul Kitui, just a quick one, your take on Ruto's session with Okwara and Latif?
Yeah, thanks. So I've already talked about what Ruto didn't do. So let me talk about what he should have done. So one, capitalizing on Dweiler's absence, Ruto should have talked about a number of health needs. He should have demonstrated his grasp on the challenges of poverty. That was personally what I expected from him. He should have expressed how well he understands the economic challenges of the country. The overhang of the debt, the debt situation we have, because we have like an overhang whereby we have a country where that lives beyond its means and all that, investor confidence and all that. But again, they weren't talked about, because I'll give it, what I can say in his defense is he was grilled, and I would like to commend Yvonne and Latif for that. They didn't come there to play, and the questions they asked him required him to be very accountable, which was something he wasn't ready to do from the get-go. When he talks about Galana Kalani, of course, the project and all that, of course, accountability, as Josephine has said, vague answers on education and the situation in Baringo and all that, debt transparency and all that. Yeah, and also before I wind up, I would just like to point out in general, although he mentioned it, but in general, like, subsidies are not the only way to solve issues. I'm noticing a lot of these candidates talk about subsidies. Subsidies are not the only way you can resolve issues of a country, because they talk about subsidies of maize, of fuel, of flour. There are other ways you can revamp our sleeping economy or enterprise Kenya. So generally, that's what I thought he should have done, and the aspects of his presentation he should have worked. Thanks.
I like that. Paul and Josephine Flora, you seem to be joining Mama Rachel Ruto. Immediately after the debate, what did she say? Thank you, Bill, for standing up. That was so courageous of you, the last man standing. Shekhar, is that the only thing we can appreciate from this debate, or do you think there are certain things that maybe for you really stood out and you say, okay, he was a man of the moment here?
Okay. First thing first, Oponda, let me first of all highlight the trajectory of the debate, first of all, from the organization of itself up to, the interrogation, so to speak. So first thing first, I'd like to acknowledge something here. You see, when Ruto came into the podium, introduced himself and what he's all about, and the first question he was thrown at him was the cost of living. Now, during all these, and I think this is a failure on the moderators, he had to defend what had already happened. Okay, but personally, I believe when you're coming into a debate and he's eyeing a presidential seat, he should have been able to tell us what he's willing to do now. Okay, so I think he was mostly on the defense mode, because actually he was allowed to give us solutions only 20 minutes later. You can go back on the 22nd or whatever minute. That is when he came in with solutions on cost of living, citing VAT and, revenue sources and stuff like that. So personally, for me, I feel like some of the failure was in the moderation of the entire debate, rather than the person actually speaking, because he had to defend the previous government that he was in. And Justin had mentioned something about the deputy president making us the pity party part of it, of him being, the victim of a system that he's serving in. When we define the government, I think it's self-explanatory. You see, you can't be in there by virtue of a position, because he cannot resign because he was not appointed. He's not an appointee of any executive from the government. He was voted in alongside the president, and we are the ones as Kenyans who voted him in, gave him that seat. So I don't think it is smart for him either to have resorted into resignation after having all this, after him being frustrated throughout his second term. And actually on the 20th of January, there was a report by KTN News citing how Matiang'i was given some of his roles as the deputy president. So I honestly think he was put into victimhood, and it was even seen in the debate itself. Thank you.
Shimei says Ruto was kind of ambushed. He had literally prepared to debate bottom-up model, but he made some really concerning questions, such as the accountability one. At some point, I felt that he was attacked. Hey.
Yes, definitely. It was, I can call it character assassination. It was so personal.
Okay, so I know these debates have had a lot of issues from people looking at how the people doing makeup on these guys and all these other blah blah blah. But at least there are a lot of things to talk about, Yvonne.
But okay, before Yvonne even says something, I think I'll also agree on Sheikh on that. In as much as we are applauding the moderators for doing a good job, I don't think they did a good job in highlighting the manifestos and what the manifestos are all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yvonne.
What I would say, of course, majority of the things have been said, but I noticed a trend of some sort of evading the question you've been asked. And so that left a lot of issues hanging, because even the moderators get tired of asking the same thing over and over again. So the honorable thing to do would have been to just accept, as someone mentioned earlier, that things indeed went wrong in the administration you've been in, and move forward, be accountable, and tell us the way forward. But there was really a lot of evading the serious issues that were being asked, and some of the questions I was eager to hear answered were not answered.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else is here? Omukoko?
Yeah, I think I'll give my thoughts on Ruto, and I'll say, first of all, he tried, because with the number of scandals that he has, I think having the courage to stand for 90 minutes and keep your head straight, I think he must be commended for that. But I will also say that Ruto avoided a lot of questions. He will be asked a question, and it reminds me of what a friend told me, that you'll be in class and you're asked a question in examination and you don't know anything about it, but you write very long sentences hoping that you will get a mark somewhere. And I think that is what Ruto tried to do. And I will agree with Timothy that no human being is perfect. And I think the depiction or the attempt to depict himself as a perfect human being who always gets it right, and as soon as the Jubilee government ejected him, then it suffered a great deal. I think that was not the best approach he would have had. Someone mentioned that he was prepared to talk about bottom-up, which I hear is a word that did not appear in any of his speeches. And when he started by saying that this is a Mama Mboga moment, I think that's where Mama Mboga ended. And for the rest of the debate, I did not see much of any focus on starting from the Mama Mboga. But we must laud him for showing up, for having the courage to come. I believe his team overhyped him and overrated his abilities, but I was not surprised that I think, knowing his character, many times when he's cornered with such questions, he tends to be arrogant and refuses to answer them. But this time, he was very calm, composed, and I made an attempt to answer them. And I really appreciate him for that, at least for the debate. And I believe, among other things, that is one thing that really stands out. And those are my thoughts on.
Okay. That's interesting, Mukoko, because I even wanted to hand it over to you. We are 55 minutes already into this discussion. But Mukoko, the segment that I know we wanted really to tackle as we come almost to the end of this debate, actually, just one more round. Do you think these debates have any power to sway Kenyans on how they're going to vote freely? Are these debates even important? Because, the Media Council, the association came together thinking that these things matter. In 2017, we saw exactly what people said about the debates, in fact, when President Uhuru Kenyatta did not show up. And in fact, not just that, we even had cases where politicians says, you know what, hata gazeti na hizi za media ni vitu za kufunga nyama. So I really even wonder if this kind of sessions even matter to Kenyans. Do you think Kenyans really pay close attention? Like, let's say, after Tuesday's debate, are there people who are supporting Ruto who can now say, no, because he said this, I can no longer support him? Or were there those who are not decided or were supporting Raila and other opponents, and after that debate can say, wow, okay, after that debate, I will start supporting Ruto? Mukoko, maybe lead us through this as we come to the end now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will talk about that. And this time I'll start with Yvonne. What do you think? Do you think that the presidential debates have any impact on the Kenyan voter?
I'll say with the current political trend in Kenya, the debate can only do as much. I feel like that it plays a very minimal role in swaying voters' minds. Again, as we've seen the previous debates, the manner in which they're being conducted, again, doesn't really let us yield much from the debate, because we get to listen to people playing blame games. As you saw in the deputy presidential aspirants debate, it was said online that apparently Mr. Gachagua mentioned Uhuru's names I don't know how many times. So perhaps in future, if the manner in which or the rules of the debate are revised so that we get more out of the time we're investing listening to these participants, and then we should get more of a highlight of manifestos, get to know what are these people really telling us, and tell us the how. How do you intend to achieve the things you've put out in your manifestos? But as of now, I don't really think that the debates play a key role.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Yvonne. I'll ask you, Shekhar, do you think the debates change anyone's mind, or do they even change your mind?
Absolutely. First thing first, I'd like to talk about David Mwaura. Honestly, I think he was not previously during his campaigns, because I'm sure he's been going around the country campaigning for himself, and the media coverage was not as enough. And I think they hardly covered his campaigns wherever it is that he went. But when it came to the debate, I got to hear what he had to say, and honestly, I felt I saw the sense in his approach to the issues that we are having, and embedded in his debate, and he was basically on issues, ethics, morals, and values, which I think are lacking in our presidential or just generally these candidates. So I was able to hear him out and make sense to what he's saying and everything. And with that, I think it plays a very important role. People are able to make focus on the important issues and not just propaganda, or when they go to these rallies of theirs, they just call each other names. There is a lot of name calling. This did that, this person did not do this, and things like that. So when it came to the debate, I honestly felt like the hard questions were asked and they had to answer, and we had to see their perspective on everything that is happening and what their plans are for this country. So yeah, it plays a significant role.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sheikha. I wonder whether Mr. Duho agrees that the debates actually swayed some voters, or actually sway a significant percentage of voters. Mr. Duho, do these debates have an impact?
Yes and no. Yes, to the fact that there are those like Mr. Wahiga that whose opinion have yet to be articulated well in public, and such a platform is sufficient. Such individuals who are completely oblivious of you and now knowledgeable of you.
Mr. Duho, maybe you can work on your audio. We have a problem.
Yes.
We can't hear you very well. Yeah.
Okay, how is it now?
Very much well.
Excellent. So yes, so ultimately, indeed it does have a scope, but ultimately no, because ultimately you cannot change the mind of a person who was ultimately made.
We are losing you again.
My apologies. Maybe you can circle back.
Yeah, I think as Mr. Duho works on his audio, we can listen to Paul and then Tim and then Josephine in that order. Mr. Paul.
Yeah, thanks. So do they sway voters in a certain way? To a large extent, with the kind of democratic narratives we have in the country? No, because we are still largely in a tribal-based system. Also nowadays, I know it's moving away, it's become more class wars and all that, but it's usually majorly about, this is the person that I'm stuck with, that my family knows and they are better than this guy. It's usually more about making your opponent's candidate look bad than making your candidate look good. So in that regard, I think to about 80% of the people won't be swayed. They'll just have their notions reinforced. So like Ruto supporters might say, yes, I'm voting for Ruto because I know he's an eloquent guy, he'll come and answer the questions. The Raila supporters will find a loophole in whatever Ruto was saying and say, see, I'm sticking with Raila because Ruto couldn't do 1, 2, and 3 from the debate from what was expected from him. But then as I wind up, I think it also helps the lower candidates. It gives them a platform to air their manifestos or whatever they have. Because like, I think it was Sheikha or someone, you had talked about how media coverage was minimal. So I think it definitely helps. Then maybe it prepares you for the future, because like if we're being realistic, as of now there are like only 2 serious sites as there usually is. So maybe work on next time. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Thanks.
Mkoko, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Paul. And Mr. Tim, do you believe that there are voters who are swayed by the debate? Maybe I've heard Josephine saying Justina really impressed. And so do we expect more voters for Roots Party, Mr. Tim?
I agree, Justina was the deal. I watched that debate and I have to agree with her. But I'd say on the issue of swaying, I'd say little, if any, because what's her name? I can't really remember her name, sorry, but I'm on full screen. Is there a way I can see everyone so I can see the names of?
Okay. You want to see the other speakers? Okay.
Yes, I want to see the other. Yeah, it was Sheikha.
Sheikha, that's my name.
Yeah, Sheikha. Like she said, Maura stood out very different, and I'd say the same for Justina as well. They stood out as people who are thinking outside the box, and they have this utopian ideas that can really change, and they're interesting to listen to. But I think if you've seen in the Kenyan voting scene, at the end of the day, people will just go for the big boys. It's just to agree with what I lost everyone again.
Okay.
I wanted to refer to the previous speaker before me, is that we are still largely regional and tribal, and these debates only appeal to a very small percentage of the literacy block that are able to actually pick out the chaff, and to critically analyze people and make decisions based on a debate. So I'd say little, if any. At the end of the day, most people will still vote to who they were going to vote for anyway, in my opinion.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tim. I think we are out of time, but we might have a few more minutes just to conclude this. Maybe I'll just listen quickly, a yes or no, or maybe a sentence or so in support. From Josephine, do you believe that their voters were swayed by the debate?
I'd say, okay, I started by saying this debate are actually not serving their purpose. Do you know, when they started, the first comment I made was, people are listening to these debates based on which party they are supporting. So, nasikiza na volume ya mtu na support. So, if I'm supporting Ruto, everything he says is right. Whether someone else feels it's wrong or not, it's right. If I'm supporting Raila, everything he says is right. If I'm for UDA, anything UDA says is right. So it becomes very difficult to engage people and make them understand that in as much as you're supporting this person, there are loopholes in some of the things that they are saying. As Tim had said, these debates are they're for a certain group or class of people that are common monanchi, and most of which covers the larger percentage, wouldn't really bother to hear what does Ruto have to say about this and this and this. All they care is he's in the debate, he said it, I'll still vote him in. So I doubt if most Kenyans would change their mind. Like, for instance, we all know Mwaure did a good job in articulating some of the issues, but he'll still not win. And any Kenyan will tell you that. Justina did a brilliant job, but you'll hear someone make statements like, she did a good job, but she will not win. So it doesn't really affect how I'll vote or whom I'll vote for. They're just there for formalities. They're there for people to, how do I call it? Kuchomeana, for you to see mistakes in your opponent, not to see the good deed that they'll do. You are there to see what is wrong with this person, and then after you see it, you brag about it, like, you saw what he did? Yeah, you see, even that smile looked like it was a fake smile. You get? People are just there to look for petty issues to walk around with.
Okay, thank you very much, Josephine, for pointing out that we have confirmation bias. When people come to watch Ruto, they are coming to see their man. When people, and if things go wrong, they blame the media. When people come to watch Justina and all other people, they always have the winning candidate in mind. They're not there to have their minds changed, but to confirm that indeed my candidate is the best. And they will always find reasons for that. Thank you. Mr. Duho, we'll finish with you before we listen to Ali, who was accused of politicians of corruption. And I think every time you mention a Kenyan politician and you don't know much about them, just say he's corrupt. And 95% of the time you'll be correct. Sometimes. But anyway, let's listen to Mr. Duho before we go to Ali, and then we can have the final thoughts. And I think we can talk more about that. Mr. Duho.
Right. Just to confirm, my audio is okay?
Yeah, it is.
Excellent. So, largely, I would say that, of course, an answer to the question, I would say no, because ultimately, first of all, the question assumes that the entire electorate are intellectually equal, and that is a fallacy. Because hence it also assumes that everyone has capacity for critical thinking, and that is what is ultimately required for the debate. The debate here, being a presidential debate, was one where I was personally expecting inspiration. Inspiration. But what I witnessed are mere politicians talking about their ideas, but not leaders talking about vision. And hence the line must be drawn that ultimately we must ask ourselves, what kind of electorate are we talking about? Because the caliber of leadership that we see in government today is a kind of electorate that we're ultimately talking about. So is it a matter of ideas, or is it a politics? Is it a matter of politics competition?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think I'll conclude with Mr. Ali. Before now, we can hear at least final remarks from everyone on what should have happened, what should not have happened, very briefly. Mr. Ali, with your mic. Welcome. It appears the microphone is not working. We cannot hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
can you hear me now? Okay, thank you for that, for confirming. I was saying that it's very much important to have such debates because on a very quick note, looking at some of the problems that Kenya is facing, the likes of corruption and weak government, looking on the COVID-19 pandemic, which is actually relating to the economic slowdown, also some of the problems, the likes of low in terms of consumer spending, low public investments, which relates to fiscal. My network, sorry about that. So I was saying that looking at some of the problems that Kenya is facing, when we are going to listen to the presidential debate, we are looking at the resolution to some of the problems that Kenya is facing. So it's very much important. And also, one thing that I can also emphasize is that the debate is very much important because we are going to hear the leaders, I could say the leaders' point of views in relation to the public policies that they're going to propose to the public. So, but I don't think that there's any way in which that they can change the people in terms of which party they're going to vote for. I know for sure that I'm going to vote for party A, regardless of what someone coming from party B is going to speak or going to propose to the house. I'm not going to take that. I'm still with my party, but it's very much important to listen to them. What if somebody going to propose to say, let me give an example, very quick note. What if I'm on party B and somebody coming from party A say that we are going to offer a social grant to people who are not working? Obvious. I'll leave that part and go to those ones who are saying that they're going to give us a social grant. So it's very much important to have such debates.
Thank you very much, Ali. I think I was watching the debate with some members of my family, and I had something being mentioned. I think it must have been Mr. Gachagua, if I'm not wrong, who mentioned something to do with increasing salaries or reviewing salaries for a certain group of people. And that one swayed someone. And I thought, oh, if that is true, then I could vote for that person. So I think the debates had an impact, and they were followed by 34 million people, and especially for undecided voters. But maybe, can we just hear final remarks from each one of you? And I think if the briefer they are, the better. We really appreciate. And I'll start with the first person on the screen. I think that is Timothy on the side. Timothy.
Okay.
Very briefly, final remarks.
Yeah, just to sum it up, I think still more needs to be done going forward. I think in juxtaposition to national debates, for example, in well-established democracies, I feel we still have a long way to go with the debate itself before even actually getting to the individuals in the debate. So for a personal taste, I'd like us to have a way of verifying information so that we don't just have a big show telling Kenyans lies. That would be my take on it going forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Timothy. We need a way of verifying information. We will go to Yvonne.
To add on to what Tim has highlighted, the verification of the information I feel like needs to be during the debate and not after, because a majority of Kenyans take and go. You consume that information and run with it, and most of us don't bother to check if it is actually true or not, and especially if it comes from the candidates we are inclined to vote for. I do agree as well that a lot needs to be done when it comes to the debates. That is a topic of discussion for another day, but there is still a lot to do. And as an electorate as well, there is still a lot to do when it comes to how we think, what influences us to vote, for certain people. Yeah, generally we can do better.
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne. I think I'll move to Paul.
Paul, Yvonne, I think it was someone's microphone. I've solved it.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so in terms of fact checking, the previous immediate two speakers have talked about one, having confirmation of info, and two, even if it's confirmed, some people will just take it as a debate. So here's the thing, like, if you take a case study of the US, for example, they do have these people that verify the facts, each and every fact from the media houses. But then again, in the States, I guess people are so well informed, a point where we aren't there as a democracy yet, that it's very hard to get away with some of these lies. It will be a media headline and it will spin. So what I can say is maybe just time, but we need the time as we also grow the culture of fact checking. Like, we shouldn't expect it to suddenly change on the next debate, but like, we're a young democracy when we get there. So like, we should keep doing what we're doing, because I think they've already started, even on Thursday night, which is today, or Okwara and her panel usually have the whatever, they verify these things. So yeah, we'll get there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. I think we'll move to Sheikha.
Yes, so for me, I think moving forward, God willing, I hope we focus more on issues rather than individuals, concerning what the ideas, mostly the ideas and what they plan for the country. And also, I'll urge all of us and to get the message outside. Let's have a peaceful election. And yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikha. We will move to Josephine.
I hope you can hear me. My network is really starting to misbehave. I don't know why. All I can say is, in as much as the debates haven't served their purpose, at least it's enabled some of us see what these leaders think of us, see what they are prioritizing and what they are planning. So when we are listening in the near future to what these people are saying, let's try and listen without being biased, depending on whom you stand with or whom you're going to vote for. But let's listen the voice of reason. Even if you're going to vote for person A, it will be critical if you get to listen to whatever they're saying, so that when they're in power, you can even hold them accountable to their words. You said you'll do this on such and such a date, and you've not done it. But then if you listen and you're listening it, but your head ain't there, but you're listening and you're like, whatever this person is saying, you've already rubbished it. It even affects you are holding them accountable. What if that person you didn't listen to wins the election? How would you hold them accountable when you listened to nothing they said? That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you very much, Josephine. And we will finalize with Mr. Odoho.
Very much, Bwana Mukoko. Elections is the people exercising their sovereign will. And the sovereign will is enshrined by the following Latin maxim, Vox Populi Vox Dei, which in English means the voice of the people is the voice of God. This ultimately alludes that government is a divine institution. Corruption is an evil. It is a scourge. And as such, it must be acknowledged that government has been infiltrated by the evil that is corruption. Let us be particular about the leaders that we decide to put into government, because ultimately they determine what our future is. But not just our future is, but even our own children. We must remain assured and always remember, 30 years from now, none of these politicians who are in power today are going to be here still in active politics. But we ourselves are going to be there. Our children shall be there. We must ultimately acknowledge that this is about our future. And if we are to secure our future, we must be as particular about the people that we put into government as they are just as particular with us as we are, as we search for any form of employment, that we must ultimately remember that the people in government are the employees of the people, and that ultimately the will of the people is what must prevail. That ultimately the people hawafai atufai kubebwa. Let people not be taken a fool. That ultimately the will of the people, should it prevail, ultimately, as it has been spoken more than severally, integrity is crucial. Leadership of vision is crucial. Not politics of divisiveness, not politics of just mere ideas, but politics of values. Then we will see true change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duho, and all the panelists for making time to be with us. Thank you for sharing your insights and your great wisdom. I think my concluding remarks are as follows. There's a very thin line between good orators and good leaders. And I think debate is a platform where for a lot of people and for a long time, Kenyans have been looking at who speaks best. And that there was an argument between Raila and Ruto. And the question was, Ruto will do better than Raila. And I think that is not the direction we should be taking. The direction we'll be taking is who can actually talk about their ideas, talk about what they want to do, and not just talk about it, also mean what they say. Remember, we only have 90 minutes to know two people. That means 45 minutes for each individual. And because the moderators are asking questions, we have just over 30 minutes to know an individual. I think that is very little time. I will urge Kenyans to use debates as one place to know their candidates, but even more, to dig deeper and to understand the weight of any elections. The challenges we face, the problems you have been in, can be solved with good leadership. And that can only come if we endeavor to do sufficient research and to know the kind of people that we are entrusting with our lives and with the leadership of this country. Project Kenya is still alive, and I have no doubt whatsoever that we are on the right track. And if we continue this way, a day will come when we'll all celebrate and be thankful that we were part of this change. Alice, thank you very much. And thank you very much to our host, Mr. Kotha Pondo, and I will hand it back to you so that you may conclude it for us. Thank you. You're muted, Mr. Pondo.
Sorry. I was handling something here. Asante sana, that's what I was saying. Thank you so much for everyone who joined. I'll finish by reading Kari's official comment. So let's all agree that these debates are meant for entertainment purposes, nothing else. That is what Kari says. We're all here, but we're all agreeing. As we started, remember, I told us here that Kenya is among the few countries that actually have the audacity to bring presidential candidates together. If you even to ask Ali here from South Africa, because of how their system works, I don't even know if South Africa has ever had a presidential debate. Uganda is even worse. The last time they tried having a presidential debate, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni decided to come in mysteriously. Yeah, even the time he was coming, it appeared like Undertaker was coming into the wrestling ring. Everything had to come to a standstill, and then he got in. At least in Kenya, we treat each other like human beings. I know we still have a long ways to go, but anyway, we have to do our part. Kwa mara nyingine, acha nisema asante sana kwa wale wote ambao wameweza kuungana nasi leo katika mjadala wetu. Bwana Mkoko, mwelekezi mwenza, na wanajopo wote, team Sheka, Oduho, Josephine, Flora, Yvonne, Paul na hata vile Ali kule aliko, lakini nasema asante sana kwa wale wote ambao wameweza kuungana nasi kutazama, ama vile pia kuweza kutueleza mawazo yao. Tunashukuru sana. All the best. See you again next week on Thursday, same time as we debate and even as we head the election. Good night. And I'm wishing
Opondo, before you leave.
Yes.
My husband wants to know kama umevaa helmet. He's actually asking. Is that a helmet?
Yes, Jadili, after I knew this discussion was going to be very hot, and I told them, try to prepare myself with a helmet because there will be stones coming from all directions. Sasa asante sana. Good night.
Good night.